Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the beautiful Shore Bar Complex this afternoon, in spite of the inclement weather, for this very, very special occasion. It's the official launch of second edition of the Coral Reefs of Trinidad and Tobago, presented by the Institute of Marine Affairs. So I hope you're excited, as I am, as we dive into this journey as we move forward. But before we get into this afternoon's agenda, I would invite you to stand for the national anthem. Please have your seats. So before we dive into this afternoon's agenda, just a brief housekeeping note. Your safety is our priority. So in the event of an emergency, I would like you to pay special attention to the safety briefing I'm about to read. Welcome to the Shore Bar Complex. You are presently seated in the ground floor East meeting room. The washrooms are located on the first floor, accessible by the elevator located at the right upon exiting the room. Should an emergency occur, an alarm will sound. At the sound of the alarm, please proceed in a single file, orderly manner via the main entrance to the muster point. The muster point nearest to your location, listen to this carefully, is situated at the western end of the car park and is labeled muster point. Further instructions will be given at the muster point. Thank you and welcome once again to the Shore Park Complex. At this time, I will invite Ms. Hannah in blue, Lochan, to lead us in a word of prayer. Hannah.
Thank you, Andre. Hello, everyone. So, in honor of World Oceans Week, I just thought it would be fitting to share the Prayer for Our Earth by the late Pope Francis. So, all powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out onto us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at the expense of the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, and to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature as we journey towards your light. Amen.
Thank you for that lovely prayer, Hannah. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me loosen up a little bit. It is truly my pleasure to warmly welcome each and every one of you to today's special occasion. It's the launch of our Coral Reefs of Trinidad and Tobago, IMA's latest publication. I am Andre Hanif, Information Technology Manager at the Institute of Marine Affairs, so I am not technical. However, joining me on stage today is the lovely, brilliant Dr. Anjali Ganesh, the brilliant author behind the coral reefs of Trinidad and Tobago. Definitely. Together we have the honor of being your host for today's very special occasion. Now, again, we're thrilled that you're here to join us to celebrate this particular milestone. One that really and truly shines a spotlight on the beauty, importance, and the urgent need to conserve our nation's coral reef. Today, we not only celebrate a book, but showcase a journey, one that started over 4 decades ago and continues to evolve with passion and purpose in the eye. Before I continue, I'd like to extend a heartfelt welcome to our specially invited guests. We're honored by the presence of Mr. Gregory Sloan Seal, Shell Representative and Special Advisor, Shell Trinidad and Tobago Limited. We also have Mrs. Michelle Denoon, representing Tobago Library Services, and our very own Dr. Ava Maxam, Director of the Institute of Marine Affairs, as well as Dr. Rahana Juman, our Deputy Director at the Institute of Marine Affairs as well too.
Thanks, Andre. I'll just let you know that I'm very nervous, and I hope that see, failure number 1. I am a better author than a speaker, but I'm very proud to be here today. And to all our valued stakeholders, partners, friends, you all know who you are, and your presence really speaks volumes about your commitment to marine conservation, as well as the future of coral reefs of Tobago. A special thank you must go out to Shell Trinidad and Tobago, whose generous support really helped bring this 2nd edition to life. And of course, I'll take this opportunity to thank the IMA team, whose dedication to the creation of the book, as well as today's events, it was a true labor of love, and I'm really appreciative of your hard work, and it really hasn't gone unnoticed, so thank you.
Indeed, and I think you're doing very well so far. I'm nervous as well too. Listen, now over the next hour, we invite you to join us on a journey, as I said, one that began way back in 1984 with the first baseline assessment of the Tobago coral reefs. That work laid the foundation for the first edition of this book, A Guide to the Coral Reefs of Tobago, published by Mr. Richard Ledoux in 1991.
Now fast forward 3 decades later, we are very proud to unveil the 2nd edition. It not only revisits the same sites that Ledoux surveyed in the 1980s, but includes information on Trinidad's coral reefs, information on climate change, as well as the relationship between the communities and the coral reefs. So it's something that's new and improved, hopefully, with more information, but yes.
I definitely think so. Now this afternoon, we'll be honored to hear from the Honorable Fadi Chavez Augustine, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, and of course, the author, and the beautiful author by herself, in terms of telling us the journey behind this edition, the value it brings to science, conservation, and public awareness, as well as the inspiration behind this book too. Anjali, as long as we're confessing here, we say confession is good for the soul. As I said, I'm in information technology, so I know nothing about ocean and corals and everything like that. So when I first started working at the Institute of Marine Affairs, I thought corals was a plant. Turns out they're actually animals. Never knew that. But it made me realize how much we really and truly misunderstand about the ocean and the need for marine science awareness and education. Any thoughts on that, Anjali?
Yeah, I mean, Andre, you're not alone on that misconception. It's a very common thing that people mistake. I mean, if you look at that, the corals, they look like rocks, right? They're supposed to behave like jellyfish, but they don't exactly do that. And then they harness light from the sun to grow. So it's a very complicated group of species that we have, around our shores. And I think it's that complicatedness that really makes them intriguing to do research and to study. But it is that challenge also for conservation. They don't have the classic face of a dolphin, or they don't have a very charismatic look, I mean, they look like rocks. But that is a challenge when it comes to conservation, and I hope you're able to sort of change that with the book and the work we do.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Beautiful and complex. There's a joke somewhere in that, Dr. Maxwell, but I will save that. Now, Anjali, for the most part, coral reefs, they're not your everyday type of conversation. Moreover, it's not something a lot of people study. I am curious, where did this passion for the marine sciences and coral reefs really and truly begin? Because you seem very passionate about coral reef ecology and the marine sciences. Where did it begin for you?
Yeah, Andrew's calling me a coral nerd, essentially.
Not in so many words.
But
yes.
yeah, no, I think my origin story is not much different from a lot of people in this room, because a lot of people work in the marine environment. My grandfather was an avid fisherman, and he used to fish out in the bogus. And he used to take us out snorkeling. So we would look at the coral communities around Scotland Bay. He would tow me behind him in the boogie board. I had a mask, and I think that was it. It was a portal to a new world. And so fast forward, how many decades later, I studied coral reefs, in the Caribbean, but also in other regions around the world. And that brought me right back around to coming back home to Trinidad and Tobago and working with the Institute of Marine Affairs and celebrating coral reefs during this World Oceans Week. So basically, as I segue, so just so you know that 2 days ago was World Oceans Day. It's celebrated on the 8th of June every year. And this year's theme is Wonder Sustaining What Sustains Us, which could not be more apt with respect to this launch of the publication of the Coral Reefs of Trinidad and Tobago. Many of us in this room understand the value of coral reefs. I'm speaking to the choir. But it is the wonder and the awe that keeps us working in the marine environment. It is the raison d'etre for people like Dougie and for Curtis and for Mr. Edgar Johnson. They're the reasons they go out every day, and they've been diving and working in the marine environment for the last 30 plus years. It is work, but it's also a very special experience like no other. It's not the facts or the figures or the science that would lead or drive coral conservation. It's these connections that we have and experiences with the coral reefs and the marine environment.
Angie, the second part of that theme is just as important. We benefit considerably from coral reefs and more broadly our ocean environment. In many ways through food security, coastal protection, and not to mention tourism that boosts all our livelihoods and is also part of our culture. So to sustain this, it is essential that we actively protect and manage these delicate resources so that we can continue to reap its benefits.
Exactly. The book also tries to highlight how the coral reefs sustain us, and in turn how we should sustain the coral reefs.
I'm glad that you mentioned that book, because this is the second edition of the book, which, as we were speaking, is a real milestone for the IMA in of itself. I want to know, Angie, I'm curious, what does this new edition hold in it for new and returning readers?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, the second edition is over 30 years after the first edition was written by Mr. Richard Davey. He wrote a simple guide to coral reefs of Tobago and was based on the baseline studies in the 1980s. In this version, I tried to stay true to the same format of the book that he did, but I go into more detail in terms of the science, the biology and the ecology of the corals and coral reefs around Trinidad and Tobago. But I also include another component which looks at the social components with respect to the communities that work and study around coral reefs in Tobago, and of course lots of pretty pictures. Underwater photography has come a long way since the 1980s, and it's remarkable how you were able to take underwater photography back then. It's a lot easier now, and so we hope to have we've included a lot of beautiful underwater photos of coral reefs.
Definitely, something in it there for everyone. And speaking of the photography and the technology, I'm mindful of the lovely videos that we have playing as well too. All this is IMA content. You guys diving and surveying the reefs and everything like that.
Yes, and it's all Tobago's coral reefs.
Well, that's really fascinating. Well, From a simple guide to a deep dive, literally and figuratively, it's clear the second edition is not just an update, but it's an evolution. And speaking of depth and insight, it's now my pleasure to invite someone who has been a strong supporter of this initiative, the Director of the Institute of Marine Affairs, Dr. Ava Maxam. But allow me to tell you a bit about Dr. Maxam before we bring her to the podium. Now, Dr. Maxam is an expert in the field of geographic information systems and oceanography within the region. With a PhD in oceanography obtained from the University of the West Indies, Mona campus, where she also obtained a degree in zoology and botany. Now, her range of professional experience spans from coastal processes, modeling, and spatial analysis to developing spatial solutions for clients across private and government sectors as well. She has led consultancies in GIS applications, coastal hydrodynamic modeling, as well as oceanographic, environmental, ecological, and biophysical assessments. Equipped with strong leadership and organizational skills, Dr. Maxam continues to effectively guide the IMA towards its goal. That's my boss. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to invite Dr. Maxam to the podium to deliver the opening mass. Please give her a lusty round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Andre. And everyone here assembled, we're very, very grateful and very pleased with all of you here. Certainly, I'm sure, as many of you walked into the room, you realized that there was a buzz and an energy from us and from other people that are here, because it almost feels like family. Many of us know each other for quite a while now. And so this is how we want to celebrate this book. It does have very rich history behind it. And I'll go ahead and start with the salutations. So we want to pay recognition to, hopefully, you know, when he soon arrives, the Honorable Farley Chavez Augustine, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. Of course, to Mr. Sloan Seal, the Community Relations Advisor for Shell, Trinidad and Tobago. The wife of the esteemed Mr. Richard Ledoux, Mrs. Elizabeth Ledoux and family, we welcome you. Dr. Rahana Juman, Deputy Director of Research at the Institute of Marine Affairs. Of course, our esteemed author, Dr. Anjani Ganesh, our Senior Research Officer at the Institute of Marine Affairs. Ms. Nichelle Denoon, Librarian of Nalis Tobago Library Services. From the THA, of course, I just want to recognize Mr. Beckles. I saw him somewhere here in the room. Mr. Lovelace. And, of course, members of the media or esteemed guests, our IMA family, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Anjali would have reminded me, and just for many of us working on this book in some form or another, it took me back to my early days of the first time trying to take underwater photography of our coral reef. It was an adventure, it was exciting. We were trying to capture the spawning, and it's such a delicate process when the coral reef are spawning. You're seeing very colorful little dainty balls coming off of the coral reef, and you're amazed that this huge structure that protects so much of our shoreline starts with these little tiny, tiny eggs and gametes. And it does also bring to mind just how important coral reefs are for how much of a sanctuary they provide for much of our marine life. So I would, of course, as Anthony had pointed out, photography at the time was very difficult. So I had 2 huge strobes, and you're trying to develop it using film. Very complex, but look at how far we've come. And I think it's such a great way to show how technology has come such a far way. And as such, we also need to evolve in terms of our conservation efforts with coral reef. There's a lot now that threatens our coral reef, and in turn threatens the sanctuary of many of our marine animals
as well as threatens our livelihoods and industries that depend on our coral reef. So I'm delighted to deliver the opening remarks of the launch of our Institute's recent publication entitled The Coral Reefs of Trinidad and Tobago, and of course extend hearty congratulations to the author, Dr. Anthony Ganese, and her team of contributing authors. As you flip through the book, you'll see many pages and photographs, quite a few faces of many of the contributors. Of course, this is a timely and very welcome contribution to our national scientific literary landscape. So today we celebrate not only the launch of the book, but also hard work, dedication, and all that creativity that is poured into it. Writing a book is journey-filled. There are challenges, there are triumphs, and it is an honor to recognize the significant achievement today. Such events are a delight for me as they represent a concerted effort to further enlighten the general public on these topical issues. So today we bring into focus this issue of coral reefs of Trinidad and Tobago. Now, a few days ago, on the 8th of June, we would have joined the international community in recognizing and observing World Oceans Day. Under this year's theme, Wonder, Sustaining What Sustains Us. Coral reefs are incredible marine ecosystems as they're ecologically diverse, spectacularly amazing, and quite rightly deserve the international label as natural wonders of the world. Showcasing nature's unparalleled artistry in swaying motion, the majestic beauty and wonder of coral reef are undeniable. These vibrant and scenic underwater seascapes boast a unique shape and color and are fascinating as they are vast. Now, here at home, Tobago's coral reef are renowned for their beauty and vibrant marine life, making them a popular destination for divers and snorkelers. The island boasts iconic reefs such as Speyside and Buku Reef, where one can encounter diverse species such as sea turtles, reef sharks, and very colorful fish. These reefs are not only visually stunning, but also crucial for biodiversity, our livelihoods, and of course, protection of our shoreline. But exactly how do coral reefs sustain us? Well, they do sustain a great deal of marine life. They support around 25% of all marine species, despite covering only 1% of the ocean floor. They're part of important continuum of marine ecosystems that mitigate the greenhouse effect by, of course, absorbing large amounts of carbon dioxide, thereby helping to decelerate global warming and stabilize marine ecosystems. Of course, coral reefs act as natural barriers, reducing the impact of heightened wave activity, thereby protecting coastal areas and shorelines from hazards such as storm surge and potential tsunamis. They are a magnet for tourism and recreation, supporting many livelihoods in Tobago through coastal fisheries, providing food, and generating employment. Now, coral reef in Tobago were first evaluated in 2008 by the World Resources Institute, and the estimate of coral reef came to $160 million US. And that's every year in goods and services. In fact, Tobago alone in 2016, reef-associated tourism and recreation directly contributed $852 million USD to its GDP, and that's around 36%. And 69,000 jobs were directly supported by coral reef. The World Resources Institute further projected increased goods and services totaling over 1 billion US in the years of 2019 to 2027. It further stated that Tobago's reef also provide an estimated 18 to 33 million US dollars annually in shoreline protection. Research has also shown that in addition to stunning visuals of coral reef, many coral organisms have potential medicinal value, including anti-cancer and antibacterial properties, making them valuable for pharmaceutical research. What we can perceive now, however, as a thriving coral reef, and that's through beautiful imagery and visuals, are in fact coral reef that is being threatened by a myriad of factors. Climate change is one which continues to be a very pressing issue facing our globe today, with potential impacts on the environment, societies, and of course human health. And it poses serious threats to coral reef through bleaching, through ocean acidification, and increased frequency and intensity of severe weather events. The degradation of coral reef systems, which support fisheries, shoreline protection, and recreation, threatens the future and livelihoods of our islands. Now, despite the dire challenges confronting coral reef worldwide, there is a reason for hope. Through collective action and shared values, we can chart a course towards their preservation and protection. So let us work together to sustain the very coral reef that sustain us. And I'll take a quick break just to welcome Chief Secretary. Thank you, Chief Secretary, for making it. Welcome. So our full color book provides a comprehensive exploration of the biology, biodiversity, and ecological significance of reef-building corals across Trinidad and Tobago. Combining scientific precision with non-technical jargon, while shedding light on the environmental, economic, and societal importance of these delicate marine ecosystems. This publication, we know, will inspire hope for coral reef resilience, as we have coral reef in Tobago right now that have lived through so much and do demonstrate that resilience in spite of warming. This suggests a potential for our coral reef to adapt and to survive, but we're the ones that have to make it happen. So by documenting coral physiology, ecology, and responses to stress, coral reefs of Trinidad and Tobago can demonstrate how we intervene to increase their ability to withstand and recover from environmental challenges. The Institute of Marine Affairs recognizes the importance of management actions to restore and maintain the resilience of our coral reef. And this, of course, is in order to minimize the adverse impacts of climate change. So having embarked on the Marine Resilience Initiative, MARIN, which is also led by Anthony, this project focuses on restoring and conserving Tobago's coral reef and seagrass beds within the Bucca Reef to Bonaccord Lagoon Marine Protected Area and the UNESCO Man of the Biosphere Reserve in Northeast Tobago. So we continue to engage in restoration efforts to contribute to increased reef resilience. Now, as we celebrate this launch today, let us celebrate the creative minds behind the initiative. Join me as I commend the efforts of Dr. Anthony Ganis and the team for contributing to such an important and what we know will become an iconic piece of work for Trinidad and Tobago. This is well researched, very comprehensive, and I have no doubt that this publication will serve as an educational and valuable reference to a cross-section of readers, and that could be students, researchers, policymakers, decision makers, of course, legal practitioners, scientists, and the general public. We know anyone that comes in contact with this publication will take away something from it for the appreciation of our coral reef. Now, books have the power to inspire, to educate, and to transform. So, thank you for allowing me to use this opportunity and express my sincere and deepest gratitude, of course, to our title sponsor, Shell, Trinidad and Tobago, whose unwavering support, patience, and expertise have made this publication possible. As I conclude, I encourage all participants here today to give their best support in the promotion and widespread distribution of this book. For now, we have hard copies that are available. We hope in time that this will also be available on Amazon. It is my hope that the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago will seek this book, and not just Trinidad and Tobago, but for the region and for the world, to seek this book and pay attention to its broader message of the importance of our natural and environmental resources. And of course, towards exercising care and our own personal stewardship of our environment and our coral reef as a natural wonder. So I thank you for your attention, and please enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you, Dr. Maxim, for those thoughtful and insightful comments. I just want to welcome the Honorable Fadi Chavez Augustine, Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly. And I must say, your outfit is in keeping with our thematic book launch today. So well done to you, well done. Now, Anjali, Dr. Maxim touched on some insightful points. One, as it related to coral restoration, as well as building marine resilience. Because, if I follow her correctly, there's immense economic value attached to the reefs as well too. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I tried to delve into some of the innovative strategies for conserving coral reefs as well as managing them. And that includes some restoration strategies against climate change. So building genetic resilience and diversity on our reefs in our backyard, as well as creating a network, a resilience-based network, I should say, for co-managing our coral reefs with our community members as well as our, government stakeholders and community stakeholders.
Okay. Don't run too far, because all this sounds really good. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have your wetsuits ready, because we're going to take a deep dive into the coral reefs. We have, and I would like to welcome back on stage, Dr. Anjali Ganesh herself, who will be delivering a wonderful presentation to us. So, let me tell you a bit more about Dr. Anjali Ganesh. She's a coral reef ecologist / coral reef nerd and senior research officer at the Institute of Marine Affairs with over 15 years of experience exploring and studying coral reef ecosystems, right here in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as places like Hawaii, Indonesia, and Australia. She holds a PhD in marine spatial ecology from the University of Queensland, Australia, where her work focused on the conservation and management of these vital resources. But beyond the data and research, what Anjali truly, where her passion really shines, is how she makes her desire to make ocean science relatable, helping people connect with the science beneath the waves. That spark was likely lit by her mother, Miss Pat Ganesh, a gifted writer who inspired Anjali's love for books and storytelling. This second edition is dedicated to both her mother and the late Mr. Richard Ledu. Now, Mr. Ledu authored the first edition and laid the groundwork for today's important contribution. So, everyone, please join me with a warm, welcoming round of applause, a hearty, beefy, coral reef round of applause for our author, Dr. Anjali Ganesh.
Thank you, everyone. Now I'm nervous again. You set the bar really high. So let me begin with the tale of one of the oldest living creatures in Tobago. I was born, one among a million, in a time of wild ocean life, plentiful, rich, and untouched. Where I came from and who my parents are, I do not know. When I was born, I was smaller than a pinhead, drifting in the currents of the Atlantic Ocean. I weaved and I dodged gobbling fish. I swam with all my might to find my place, nestling along the base of a reef, next to a deep channel. I had a good view of this channel where sharks, groupers, mantas, eagle rays, barracudas, and other large fish would cruise by. The currents brought food and flushed away the waste of the reef around me. Sunlight lit up the bright colors of creatures that danced about me. The sun was also my superpower. The tiny algae that lived in me soaked up the rays and gave me the food to grow. In the world above, the island where I lived was being fought over by the colonizers of Europe. The French and the English were laying claim to my island paradise, blue waters, and marine resources. Slaves were being shipped across the Atlantic to the New World, and in the deep, I continued to grow. I conquered and claimed the reef around me as I got bigger and bigger. Other corals and creatures around me were ever changing. I stuck to one spot, and I continued to grow. The corals who were born at the same time as me no longer existed, but their offspring and my offspring drifted away, creating other coral colonies, filling reef spaces, and creating homes for sharks, fish, crabs, lobsters. By the time slavery was abolished and Tobago was claimed by the British, I was already 100 years old, although still very young for my species. Other coral colonies as big as me are around in other reefs. I grow faster or slower in different years. Creatures take shelter under my eaves. Tiny fish camouflage in my deep green grooves. Dolphins and sharks use me as a beacon for navigation along the reef. Fast forward another 100 years, I've become an elder, and the ocean around me gets noisier as traffic and industries spread to the sea. Large metal ships, even those in the distance, create deep rumbles. I've heard that some reefs have been hit by these ships, crushing coral and wiping out homes. In other places, other reef homes were bulldozed to make way for docks and jetties. I'm grateful that this has not happened in my home. World wars gave technology. Now humans dive underwater, and decades later, I'm visited for the first time by humans breathing through a tube. I can tell that they were impressed by me because they keep coming back to visit. A first in all my 300 years in the ocean. I'm visited often by humans, but many fish and rays and sharks, my friends and their families, I see less and less. I see humans hunting around me. The water's not as clear as it used to be. When the rain comes, sediment rains down all over me, cover my polyps and smother my friends. This has never happened before. I spend so much time cleaning myself of the sediment that I cannot grow as fast as I used to. Sometimes the water gets so murky that it's hard to see the sunlight to replenish my energy, but I manage. Out of the last several hundred years, the last 50 have been the hardest. I begin to fall apart. Marine sponges have invaded my skeleton and are growing out of me, and I am crumbling in sections. My community has changed. Once there were corals, just like me, now mainly marine sponges and algae. They're not bad, but they do not help my coral babies that try to settle on the reef. They are smothered by algae, sponge, or sediment. Would I ever be able to have another coral like me, an offspring with my genes to live through generations and experience a long life? It is lonely. It seems like I'm the only one left in these parts. It's also getting hotter. I used to look forward to calm waters where the surface is flat enough to see the stars above. I know when it is time to spawn by looking at the moon, but often the water is too warm. Within the last 2 decades, it was so hot that I lost most of my coral friends around me. It was sad. They turned white and died. I fell ill as well, but somehow I managed to recover. Now every summer, I get worried about the heat and wonder if it will be my last. Humans still come to see me. I think they like me, but ever since I've been visited by them, my home and my community has changed for the worse. They swim by, they hover over me, they size me up. Do they even know what I've experienced? I've lived my life taking what I need from the sun and the ocean and providing shelter and support to the community around me. It's summer again, and it's oh so hot. The corals around me are bleached, and so am I. My world feels like it's burning. Will I survive? Should I survive? What's the point? My community of marine creatures have been gone a long time. I've made it through the heat wave again, but I'm so sick, parts of me have died, and disease has taken over. People still visit. I'm told I'm loved, but it doesn't feel that way. I'm the oldest living creature on the island, but perhaps not for much longer. Good afternoon, Chief Secretary of the THA of the Tobago House Assembly, the Honourable Farley Chavez Augustin. I'm a bit nervous, sorry. To Shell, Trinidad and Tobago, represented by Mr. Gregory Sloan Seal, Ms. Nichelle Denoon from Tobago Library Services, of course, the Director of the Institute of Marine Affairs, Dr. Ava Maxim, the Deputy Director, Dr. Rahana Juman, our Tobago partners, my fellow divers, my friends and colleagues. My name is Dr. Anthony Ganes, and I'm a coral reef ecologist at the Institute of Marine Affairs and the author, as you know. This book is written more than 30 years after the Guide to Coral Reefs of Tobago, written by Mr. Richard Ledoux. When we started exploring the coral reefs of Tobago, we stumbled onto an ancient ecosystem that had already been thriving for over the last 12,000 years. Our large and old corals and reef structures are evidence of this. But for us, this is a new world to explore. Under the direction of Mr. Ledoux, the IMA created the first baseline mapping of coral reefs of Tobago, complementing the work being done at the University of the West Indies around the same time. This simple book, 40 pages, provides a scientific understanding of our reefs. Today, the second edition is a testament to the knowledge and the work in coral reef science in Trinidad and Tobago. I realized when I started collating all the papers and the articles, not to mention the stories around the reefs, how much is actually known. I wouldn't be surprised if I missed a bit as well, but I'll leave that for the next author to rectify. This edition captures the advancement of coral reef science and conservation, but there is one underlying message. Our coral reefs are precious but vulnerable. It is no mystery that our coral reefs in Tobago and around the world are in serious demise. Only last week, I visited Curacao, a reef system close to us, to see reefs that have lost most of their brain corals to stony coral tissue loss disease. This disease is on Tobago's doorsteps, and we live in a connected ocean. With management, we can hope to slow the decimation, but the reality is that coral reefs over the past 50 years, and expected to continue over the next 50 years, are undergoing significant transitions because of climate change. As a scientist, you can say that this would be a very interesting time to observe natural evolution playing out in real time. But as a child of the Caribbean, it is a heartbreaking devastation. This is not the time to throw in the towel, let's be clear. This is the time when we dig deep to learn more about our marine environment, understand adaptation and ecology for the sake of nature and our own well-being. The protection and conservation of our coral reefs and the marine resources and other marine resources are critical to our future. Environmental degradations are out of sight and out of mind, and they have social and economical consequences. Issues like crime, poverty, food security can be alleviated through the proper management of our marine resources. A key takeaway from writing this book is that coral reefs of Trinidad and Tobago have a long history of research and knowledge. While there's much to explore, we have everything we need to know to effectively manage our coral reefs and protect the marine area. The vicious cycle, I'm sorry to say, of inaction, ignoring conservation, perpetuates at all levels with excuses such as lack of funds, knowledge, tools, resources. The list goes on. It is something that me and other government agencies, we love to bicker about. However, the only thing lacking and what we need is the willpower and the motivation to create behavioral change. This starts with one conversation and an idea. Before I go, I would like to thank the many scientists who work on coral reefs before me, Professor Julian Kenny, Mr. Richard Ledoux, Mr. Richard Hubbard, Dr. Ria Guppy, Dr. Jason Alamu, and Dr. Jenny Malella, just to name a few. Thank you to the conservationists, the reef advocates, and the people with the willpower to work in the marine environment and who shared their stories with me. Special mention to Mr. Edgar Johnson, who has the longest experience working on Bucca Reef and is an asset to reef management, given his observations and knowledge. To Alvin Douglas of Frontier Divers, who is working on marine education and building marine competency by training young divers. Others in the field include Derek Chung and Sean Robinson in Northeast Tobago. To NGOs such as the Environmental Research Institute of Charlottesville, Speyside Eco Marine Park Rangers, Semper, Bucca Reef Trust, Environment Tobago, SOS Tobago. All these NGOs work hard to teach and protect, and we can learn a lot from these NGOs and individuals who do a lot with very little. Last but not least, I would like to thank Shell Trinidad and Tobago, who gave us the opportunity to write the book and to provide copies of the coral reefs of Trinidad and Tobago to secondary schools across Trinidad and Tobago via the National Library and Inventory Service, NALIS. The sale of the book will continue to build marine science education program that I may conduct to our local schools. Thank you all for being here. Please share the book, especially with children and young people. They must be the stewards to protect the ocean. So thank you very much.
Thank you for such the alarm going on. I hope we listened up the safety briefing this afternoon. I think Glendon is going to check. It stopped. Okay. So obviously. Oh, it's alarm, but see why we have to pay attention to the safety briefing. Listen, Anthony, thank you for such valuable contribution. You know, I sat down there and was in awe actually, because it is such an important mandate we have at the Institute of Marine Affairs, as well as other government agencies and stakeholders within the room. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but it really is so important. I think, you know, we often say out of sight, out of mind, but for me right now, the reef is fully in sight. I'm thinking about it. Oh God, I don't want to. But you know what? This book, ladies and gentlemen, is not only about awareness, education, and conservation, but it's a call to action for each and every one of us. In terms of, I think as Dr. Juman says, in terms of building coral reef stewardship, because we can all do something here to conserve and really and truly, you know, maintain and benefit from our reefs. So thank you so much, Andrew. Appreciate it. Can I get another one?
So once again, you know, I really would like to thank everyone who helped create this book with me. I say a lot. I would like to use this time to call on 3 people that I interviewed for the book to come and tell a bit about their stories. So I'm calling on Mr. Alvin Douglas, or Dr. Douglas, if I want to. Mr. Edgar Johnson, is he around? Yes, please come up. And of course, Addison Titus. Yeah, so for those of you who do not know Dougie, he started working in a dive shop during his early teens, and now many years later, he runs his own dive shop, and he takes a lot of young folks out to dive. You know, he works with Astro Boys Club, you work with Bucca Reef Trust and Sea Sun and Science, and you teach them how to dive. And then we have Mr. Edgar Johnson, the oldest glass bottom boat tour operator on the island. I'm just hitting it home. No, I'm kidding. But what I mean is he is a pioneering, he and his family are pioneering in this field. And you learned from your father working on his boat, the Blue Horizon, during the 1960s. Yes.
But they are more pioneers.
They are definitely more, he's one of the pioneers. To this day, you know, you still take guests out on your boat, the Silver Moor.
Yeah.
And then, last but not least, is Mr. Addison Titus. right? You started work in 1985. I really have a theme here. That's 1 year before I was born. So you've been diving since I was in diapers. But through your time at the IMA, you have worked as a marine technician and you became the senior supervisor in aquaculture. You have extensive dive experience and you have been part of a lot of reef studies in Tobago. So I'm just going to ask you all questions and we can start the conversation so that they can get some insight of the value that you bring. I will start. Mr. Johnson, you and your family have been around and one of the pioneers in glass bottom boat operators. Please tell me, why is Boca Reef so special to you?
Well, it's like having breakfast, morning good breakfast. Where I live is next to 3 beaches. So, if I'm lying on a top double-decker bed, I can see the whole reef from eyeball. So that giving me, and then the colors of the water, nylon pool, you see it from your bed. You just feel, yeah. Once I traveled to Canada, and this guy took this plane over Boca Reef. I started changing my clothes. Feel like I just drop out, It's something in me. So, but I learned a lot from Mr. Dillon, Sullivan Dillon, Cecil Anthony, Patrick, Joseph, Kadies. From 14, I started rowing a boat from Boca to Pigeon Point. From 5:30 in the morning. Look, 16 fish traps and get back to go to school.
Wow.
Then you walk 1.5 miles to school.
Yeah.
The pipe is half mile, 245 gallon, so forth. No stove, wood to cut. So,
Yes.
I'm still here, only up at 74.
And tell me, how has the reefs changed, or what is your experience? You have a very long experience working in that area.
Yeah, from 14 to now, when we have 5 types of butterfly fish, like the spot fin, long nose, reef butterfly, four-eyed butterfly. You can only see 3 now. The rock beauty, hawkfish, you can see the Spanish hawkfish, not the hawkfish. Maybe if you go 40, 50 feet outside, but not in the reef. The angel, the French, the blue and the grey angel, they're still around. Anakin bass, sea anemone, trumpet fish, a lot is there. The elkhorn and the staghorn coral are missing. There is only one spot remaining now with the elkhorn coral. I show Angie a nice spot lately. I don't know, the black band disease is around. That coral is gone. So there's only a little section of the elkhorn coral remaining. Guys or people who take glass bottom boat from Storby to Boca Reef, they will be missing it. They don't research, they just have a boat with some music and little party thing. So they are studying about God.
Thank you. So if you look at the video there, you will see some staghorn and elkhorn corals. All of that was taken at Boca Reef with the help of Mr. Johnson. And sadly, a lot of that of those stands died from the marine heat wave. So this is an example of the areas that Mr. Johnson had taken us. So moving on to Dougie. I've known you for a very long time, but can you please tell us, why have you really started focusing on training young people how to dive and focusing on that type of marine education?
Thank you for having me. First, I want to say congratulations, Angie. This is very proud of you. I've known Angie for a long, long time. We've done a lot of dives all over the island, and I focus on education because and especially for Tobagonians need to know the connection between their livelihood and the ecosystem that we have. And I tell people in the entire country, our most precious resource is the marine environment. The most sensitive resource is the marine environment. But our educational system doesn't allow us to venture into that. I went there by accident. In fact, I ended up there because of the school. My teacher, Messiah, brought a fisherman and said, listen, a shark needs to swim constantly to breathe. And I was 14 years old. And that inspired me to say, wait a minute, a shark has to swim all the time to breathe. I went, started diving, ended up being certified dive master, coast guard, dive shop. But what stuck with me is that curiosity, and the curiosity of the kids. And most people only know what is in front of the waves. They don't realize what impact we have beyond the waves. So sometimes we're underwater and we say, wow, Tobago is a beautiful place. And then they say a Coke bottle. So I always focus on education, and I focus a lot on, I appreciate working with the Institute of Marine Affairs. It's the hands down the hardest working team. I'm not saying that because they're right next to me. I'm saying that because it's true. Because it's the only people I just beg them to get out to the water. That video with the spawning, we started sunset, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, I was begging them to get out in the water because it was raining like today. Right? But they were excited to see coral reef have sex.
We will censor that.
I'm sorry. I am forced to be a marine environmentalist. I am forced to be an environmentalist. I would confess, in our days, if we see a turtle, that turtle will fall 4 picnic buckets. And then you learn, you move on, you realize that a turtle is a keystone species. You only know that through education. You know that the turtles keep some of these are the sponges at bay. You learn that they feed on the seagrass. You learn all these things, and you realize, you look at the turtles and they give you an eye effect. The eye effect is $75 in your pocket. So you don't kill it anymore. You see the direct, you don't kill it, because when a person comes and they see a turtle pass, they say, you know that $75 in your pocket. So why kill it? Eat chicken. So I mean, that's why, because I'm directly connected. It feeds my family, and you know what? Right now I use the marine environment as therapy, because there's no place I can be silent, I can be weightless, and I can be stimulated by color. I can be stimulated by the amount of creatures you see. You would see 10 minutes, in 10 minutes of diving, you would see more than 2 hours in the rainforest. Creatures that you see underwater. So I go there to reflect and for introspection, so that I don't disturb. The only place I could be alert for 45 minutes to an hour, not say anything, not have the phone ring, is in the water. And I'm stimulated at the same time, I'm not saying anything. So, in a nutshell, basically, that's what it means to me.
Thank you. I learned a lot from them. So, Addison, you've been diving a long time, as I mentioned, and next year you will retire. Can you tell me some of the most interesting things that you learned by being part of these reef studies and changes that you've seen over your very long career diving on Tobago's reefs?
Okay, good evening to everyone, and congratulations to Anthony with this beautiful book. Okay, so I started IMA in 1985, exactly August the 16th. And, okay, it's a bit bad. But I did not actually start in the marine field. I started in aquaculture. And I was in the same office with Richard Lado. We worked together then, started to work together then. And he got me interested in, hey, you've been working with freshwater species, working with fish, but it's nice out there, working with coral reefs. And since when I was a little boy, I actually learned to swim in Toco, and there's the reef in Toco. It was really nice back in the day. And you got that interest in seeing all the species diversity, or the fish, or the corals, so I said, hey, this is a good opportunity. So through the IMA, I went and got certified, etc., and started to go out. But Richard Lado left the IMA then, and who took over again? Mr. Hubbard. So I started diving with Mr. Hubbard. And back in those days, transect lines weren't like now. We used to do a chain transects. So to do a chain transect, you actually run a chain along the reef, and you count everything that's in between that chain to identify your coral species and species diversity. So one area like where we dive in was like Outer Reef in Buko. We had 10 transects there, and that would take like a few days. Now we'll do that in less than an hour because of the technology we use now, and videography, and then you just put that into a computer, the software analyzes everything, and you have everything bam. Before it was very detailed, very long. So that to see what it was, how it was then to now, how much more we have done. We used to analyze just probably Buko in 10 days. Now we do 10 reefs around Tobago in a fraction of the time. And also, we've been a lot more. Also, what I've noticed is back in the day, we had so many sea fans, so many sea plumes. There was so much species diversity, and now just to watch them year after year, things just disappearing. We actually had like at certain transect lines, damsel fish, that we come back and see the same fish protecting that area every year. We come back and still see them. It was for like 6-7 years, same damsel fish. Now, they're gone. So the reef is, as far as I'm concerned, is disappearing. We had the major bleaching events, one in 2010, that was the first one, and that was the first time I really saw it. And then saw the diseases come about, black band, yellow band, white plague, dark spot, and just actually watch corals that were hundreds of years old just disappearing. By the next year comes, it's just shrinking. And then the worst for me actually was last year in March when we went there with this guy showed us all those staghorns and those elbows, and we were so fascinated. They still have them in Buko. And they had this heat wave that passed through. When we went back in November, all gone. I mean, in months, things have developed over hundreds of years, gone in months. So we have to do something about it. We have to. The policymakers, we have to get serious, because as I tell people, what we see, land, we see that we are terrestrial beings. Fish, it really belong in the ocean. And we can see that because it will be in the ocean fighting with the current, and damsel fish will watch you just swim and gone. So we belong on land. So we see what's on land. For instance, I'll give you an example. When people see bleaching, they will say, oh, look how pretty. When it looks pretty, look at the brain corals look like snow caps. So we saw those same snow caps. And now, when we went back in November, it's a skeleton, and that coral is dead, hundreds of years old. So we have to do something. So hopefully, from this book, sensitize the young people, sensitize the policymakers, and let us do something.
Thank you, Addison. Please give a round of applause. So yeah, there you have it, folks. These are their stories, and their stories of many more who work in the marine environment and on coral reefs around Tobago, which can be found in the book. Thank you so much. Thank you for telling your story. I really appreciate it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, up next we have a special performance by Denai Mohammed and Atia Lynch. Miss Danai Mohammed is a student at the Signal Hill Government Primary School of Tobago. She loves to sing. It's a natural inclination, as she finds it quite delightful, rewarding, and enriching experience. Now for the accolades. She's entered several competitions. She was a finalist in the Tobago Carnival Junior Competition, a Junior Calypso Monarch, a finalist at the Tuco National Junior Calypso Monarch, placed second in the Tobago Tuco Junior Calypso Monarch, and placed third in the Tobago Song Competition. She'll be singing an original composition penned by Dr. Verlene Bob Lewis. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to Ms. Danai Mohammed as she comes to stage to sing Tobago, My Home.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here.
And the seas where we rest. B for our beaches, beautiful beyond compare. A for our artists who work throughout the year. G for God's races and God's gift that we own. Oh, I'm so happy to call Tobago my home. Tobago is my home, no matter where I roam. A smile adorns my face when I return to this great place. God's given beauty, its rainforest and its seas, greatest island on the planet we own. I love Tobago, my home. T is for the talent that flow from stage to stage. O for outstanding icons that perform at any age. B for a Buko Reef and island pool so well famous. A for our atmosphere and the air refreshing us. Oh, and God's gift that we own. Oh, I'm so proud to call Tobago my home. Tobago is my home, no matter where I roam. A smile adorns my face when I return to this great place. God's given beauty, its forest and its seas, greatest island on planet we own. I love Tobago, my home. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. That was lovely song. And up next, we have Miss Atia Lynch, a 17-year-old graduate of the Pentecostal Light and Life Foundation in Tobago. She's currently pursuing her bachelor's degree in music at the University of West Indies St. Augustine campus. She placed second in the Tobago Carnival Calypso competition and was a regional finalist of the Tuco National Junior Calypso competition. Singing her own personal rendition called Footprints, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Miss Atia Lynch to the stage with a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me as well.
Everybody talking, but nobody walking. COP27 lasted for 14 days, discussing how the world must change up their ways. Fossil fuels blamed for what's happening, world climate that keep changing as we wait. Oil countries continue to thrive while the others struggle just to stay alive. We footprints too big. We footprints too big. I'm not talking about the size of your shoes, but the fossil fuels that we don't use. We footprints too big. We footprints too big. We must do something quick, cause we planet is getting sick. Be careful of the fuels that we use. We have to reduce our carbon shoes. Countries under heavy pressure, drought take over Africa. Rich governments, they don't even care, cause they have no one living over there. Leaders passing on the blame, yet still things remain the same. Some want to reduce their carbon print while they pick and large, not taking a hand. We footprints too big. We footprints too big. I'm not talking about the size of your shoes, but the fossil fuels that we don't use. We footprints too big. We footprints too big. We must do something quick, cause we planet is getting sick. Be careful of the fuels that we use. We have to reduce. We carbon shoes. We all complaining too much. Our rain and flooding, weather patterns not like before. Riptides, they're mashing up with pristine seashore. Unusual hurricanes and slides, we have nowhere to run and hide. Fires burning way out of control, it's a problem all over the world. We footprints too big. We footprints too big. I'm not talking about the size of your shoes, but the fossil fuels that we don't use. We footprints too big. We footprints too big. We must do something quick, cause we planet is getting sick. Be careful of the fuel that we use. We have to reduce our carbon shoes. Now we must take a stand to preserve the state of our nation. Make an effort to reuse, stop the climate demise and abuse. Use less plastics, buy cars that are now electric. Pay more footprint attention for the survival of the next generation. We footprints too big. We footprints too big. I'm not talking about
Another round of applause for Tia and Renee. We'll now have Dr. Maxim quickly present to Atia and Denai. You want to come up? Yeah. Wow, what creativity, what originality! Thank you so much. On behalf of IMA, please, we'd love for you to have a copy of our book. And we think this is something as the youth of our generation will take to heart and be able to understand what it means to ensure that our livelihoods are sustainable in protecting our reef. Thank you so much. I'm from a country called Jamaica, and we say, she tiny but she talawa. My, what a voice coming out of you. Thank you so much for, again, your creativity and your beauty and grace and everything. We appreciate you singing that song for us today.
Thank you, Dr. Maxim. Well, in Trinidad, we say she's tiny, but she's mighty. So, moving from melody to message now, we now have, it is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce a proud son of the soil, a leader whose journey from the quiet village of Speyside, the highest executive office in Tobago, reflects a life of dedication to service and growth. I speak of none other than the Honorable Fali Chavez Augustine. Now, the Honorable Chavez Augustine is the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, which is Tobago's head of government, the second youngest Chief Secretary in the history of the Tobago House of Assembly, and an office which he held since December 2021. The Honorable Fali Augustine owns doesn't hold that, he gave up that particular role. He was born in 1985 and was raised in the picturesque village of Speyside, which is located in northern Tobago, known for its beautiful diving sites and visually striking coral reefs. He attended the Speyside Primary School, continuing his education at Bishop's High School. He earned a bachelor's degree at the University of the West Indies, Mona's Campus, Jamaica. Having worked at TSTT, then at Education Division at THU as communication officer, he then went on to Speyside, where he taught. The Honorable Augustine political career started to take shape from the early 2000s. Today, he is now the Chief Secretary of Tobago House of Assembly, a testament to his commitment to the people of Tobago. And he's looking at me like, oh gosh, no, Andrew, all that. So you know what, ladies and gentlemen, please join me with a hearty round of applause as we welcome the Chief Secretary, the Honorable Fali Chavez Augustine, to the podium. Thank you, sir, for bearing with me.
Thank you very much for your introduction. When the Honorable Minister, the Honorable Kennedy Sawat Singh asked if I can do the feature address on his behalf, I said to myself, I wonder if this man knows that it's an extreme privilege for me to do this, and that I am very grateful for this opportunity. In fact, I'm happy for this opportunity. I'm happy he could not make it, so I could make it in his stead. So please give him my regards. Thank you very much, and let me start by expressing congratulations to Dr. Ganis on this book. A job well done, and of course, by extension, the leaders within the IMA. Allow me to acknowledge Dr. Ava Maxam, Director and Executive Members of the Institute of Marine Affairs. Of course, Dr. Anjani Ganis, Coral Reef ecologist and author of the book Coral Reefs of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Gregory Sloan Seal, Corporate Relations Advisor and representative of the publication's corporate sponsor, Shell Trinidad and Tobago. Special invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon all. Good afternoon, everyone. There is no better place to pronounced on this book than here in Tobago. This publication, I believe, is extremely important and it is timely. And we are at a juncture in our development where as a country, where as a people, we have to make some hard decisions about how we protect our marine assets and in so doing protect the potential of the blue economy. We sing every single day of our lives, or every opportunity we have when we sing the anthem, about these islands in the blue Caribbean Sea. And I often wonder whether we just see it as a geographical reminder of where we are located, or whether we consider the fact that strategically our identity, our livelihoods, and our future are firmly linked to the blue spaces around us. For small islands like Tobago and Trinidad, our blue assets outstrip all the other assets that we do have. In fact, for us in Tobago, while we tend to pronounce a lot on our green assets, and we are looking forward to celebrating the 250th year milestone for the Main Ridge Rainforest, many of you will be shocked or not shocked to know that our blue assets are far more valuable if we are to count it based on dollars and cents. And so the ecological wealth assigned to us by God, we have a duty to take care of it. And I'm concerned that we have not taken very good care of our blue assets all of the time. This latest edition is another vital resource that will assist in informing policy and informing stewardship. It draws on 40 years of scientific research and updated imagery, and this book most definitely will become highly sought after as a reference point, one that I'm confident will edify any reader who touches its pages. I was heartened to hear from three of our diving scholars this evening, and that's how I view them. Dougie knows that whenever my head hurt me in the waters, he's one of the first persons I will call. And if I'm up in Speyside, I will call Sean Robinson. I remember one time when I was about to embark on a crazy mission to swim from Tobago. My good friend, Mr. Elliott, was giving me some advice of do's and don'ts in the water there. I didn't heed the advice much. But I consider these individuals that we heard from this evening as scholars. And this new edition will reflect on all of their experiences. Experiences, as you have heard, are older than I am. And I didn't realize you're going to give away my age. And I'm hearing people this evening talking about I start my career in 1985, and I'm like, where's this one? But the publication will be helpful in improving the knowledge base of those of us who are charged with the responsibility of shaping policy. It will strengthen our ability to govern responsibly, as effective governance depends on access to accurate and current data. I will let you know that one of the things I've already asked of the new government is that the Tobago bill, House of Assembly bill, that we sent down to Parliament in November of 2020, look at how long, November of 2020, asking that the THA be granted significant legislative teeth over the setting up of and the policing of marine parks in Tobago. I have already asked that that be one of the actionable items in this, between June and December this year, because I think that is critical for us to move aggressively in protecting our marine spaces. And I assure you, once this THA is given the authority, we will move post haste in ensuring that we protect our marine assets as we have them here. Already there are some THA initiatives that are focused on the marine space. For example, we have been monitoring and have coordinated response to the imminent stony coral tissue loss disease. There is collaborative modular artificial reef systems that we have piloted. We have looked at the post-bleaching Elkhorn coral monitoring at the Buku Reef Marine Park. We have been managing and looking at the sargassum influx, and we have that pilot project at Speyside, the Buku Reef Marine Park stakeholder consultations towards updated user policy and co-management. In fact, that preceded the Tobago bill that we passed and sent down to Parliament for action. Further, by making complex ecological information more accessible, this book empowers and increases the awareness of a wider cross-section of Trinbagonians, ensuring that eco-stewardship becomes a collective responsibility. It is all of our responsibility. But for us in Tobago, perhaps the easiest sell is the fact that this forms part of our eco-tourism product. And our most important, and I'm taking the liberty of saying our most important niche product in our tourism package is our reef systems. Second to that will be bird watching. And indeed, Tobago stands to benefit immensely from a publication of this caliber by the IMA. Reference material like the IMA's Coral Reefs of Trinidad and Tobago provide an authoritative lens into our marine environments for students, tourists, conservationists, and more. And we understand that environmental education and tourism development, that goes hand in hand with our thrust through the UNESCO Northeast Man and the Biosphere Reserve. If everything else fails, this book serves as an inspiration for citizens. Even as we gloss through the pages and look at the pictures, as a reminder of what we have and how beautiful what we have is. And if we were able to go back to 1985, then we could only imagine how much more beautiful it was then, as opposed to what we have now. This project is another testament of what can be achieved through public-private partnership, and how government agencies like IMA can work with energy-based companies like Shell in ensuring that we produce educational materials for all of the world to look at. For me, just looking at the cover reminds me of where I am from and the responsibility I have just based on the fact that I was born in Speyside. Looking around the audience today and seeing people representing the fisher folk, I see people from the Speyside Eco Marine Park Rangers here, the divers are here, those from our department treating with climate change and climate resilience. It reminds us all that we have work to do insofar as working on our fellow citizens and ensuring that our fellow citizens understand the importance of our blue assets. Growing up in Speyside has taught me that livelihoods can be secured through the marine space. I grew up at a time when Speyside had no less than 5 dive shops, all competing successfully with each other. Everybody making good business. I grew up at a time where several young men who did not have the benefit of full CXC certificates had PADI certificates all the way up to the instructor's license. I know what it is to grow up with Kellyston Drain and Japanese Garden and Angel Reef and Blackjack Hole and Bookends and Sharp Bank right in my backyard. And to know what it is to have the largest coral reef in the world. And as Dr. Ganis was reading that narrative at the start, I could only think of the brain coral and what it has gone through, and the times we thought it was completely gone to the times it survived, and wonder how much longer will it be there, and at what point it will just become a big stone. The reality is we all have work to do in protecting our marine space. If our fisher folk have to continue a successful livelihood, then they have to ensure that this is protected. And very often, we don't realize the impact coral reefs have on not just protecting our coastline, but providing for us. If it is we are to increase quality and quantity of the catch, then we have to protect the coral reefs. If it is we are to protect our coastlines, we have to protect the coral reef. Recent studies done for the THA by the Caribbean Development Bank says to us that I need to find at least $1 billion if I am to come up with man-made solutions to protect the entire windward coastline of Tobago. We don't have $1 billion to do that. But if we have thriving coral reefs, then our coastlines can be protected. They tend to be resilient in and of themselves. The challenge is that we have been piling on too much on our coral reefs. Things that we did traditionally, we ought not to do anymore. So if we are accustomed carelessly running our waste lines towards the coastline and towards every drain running to the coastline, then we know we can't do that anymore. If we are accustomed going on a Saturday morning and taking the fish pot out from among the reef and taking all the parrotfish we could take, then we know that's something we should not do anymore. Because if we continue to treat our coral reefs with scant courtesy, then the pioneering work of people like Dougie, the gentleman whose name I missed earlier, Addison, Mr. Johnson, people like Redman in Speyside, whom we name Melville Drift after, who was discovering these dive sites, all of their pioneering work will be in vain. We will have nothing to show our children except for Dr. Gani's book, where they will look and say, well, this is what we had, and this is what it looked like. But I pray, God, that we will have more than just the book, that we will have the book and we will have strong actual references in the water. We have to do better. We cannot be afraid to make stronger laws or policies governing our marine space. I wish more of the reef boat operators were here, because we always clash. We always clash because they never seem to understand my perspective, which is that we are abusing what God has given to us. And yes, I want them to make millions of dollars, but not just for the next 5 years, but I want them to make millions of dollars long after I have left this office. And when our young children, such as the youngster that sang earlier this afternoon, is now an adult and now in my seat, they must continue to earn. And for that to happen, they have to be much more protective of the space in which they operate. And so no, it's not saying that we can't run the reef boats or that we should not have a good time in the nylon pool, but it's just that we ought to be a lot more judicious in how we utilize the resources that we have. The world we live in has changed and will continue to change. Change is the only constant that we have. And while a lot of what we experience in our environment might not be our own doing, because we are certainly at the mercy of larger countries and how they treat the environment. We live with the consequences of warming waters, of rising sea levels, of changing tides. And so we have to find strategies to survive. At the end of the day, we live on islands. Islands are surrounded by water, and coral reefs play an important role in protecting little islands. It is as simple as that. We destroy the coral reefs, we essentially will destroy our little islands. And quickly, not even slowly anymore, but quickly, we will see that we will lose land, we will lose houses, we will lose coastlines. We can't build enough retaining walls. We can't put down enough gabion baskets or do enough revetments or provide enough strategies, man-made strategies, to do what coral reefs were naturally built to do. And so, with this book, I hope we have a renewed charge as a population to do better by our reef systems. I want to thank Dr. Ganis for her work. The first time I had a conversation with this young lady, she could not shut up about talking about reefs. She was going on and on and on. And it started with, I don't know if you remember, it started with a simple question from me, and it just snowballed into a long conversation. In fact, I think in the space of 15 minutes, I got more scientific data about reefs from Speyside to the north side to what's happening at Boko and everywhere in between. I got data, I got temperatures, I got everything in 15 minutes. And in that moment, I knew that we had somebody that was a warrior for our environment and for our coral reefs. And I really want to congratulate you for that. I congratulate you for doing the academic work that we have not done. And I wish to encourage others in this space. If there are other academics in this space, I wish to encourage you. I wish to throw out a challenge to you to do work, academic work. And while I am always hesitant as a politician to make promises, I want to pledge this one thing, that if there are other academics in the room who wish to do additional work, I'm pledging support for that work. Because we have to begin to codify in words, in black and white, and in living color, as we will see in the text, what we have, so that it will be there for as long as we are alive and for our children's children. And so again, congratulations. Thank you, IMA, for loving Tobago so much. I know that we have to work on the office in Tobago, the field station in Tobago. I have some ideas where that is concerned, but we will work on that. We have to get that post haste, because I think Tobago is geographically important, that we have to do some work to protect our assets. I wish to encourage those of you in the media, and yes, I will single out Miss Jackson, but not enough of you in the media cover stories that are environmentally related. I know it's not as hard-hitting as a story about the Chief Secretary or about the Prime Minister or about some politician, but really we need you to carry the stories about what happens underwater. Be like Miss Jackson, go out there and do some dives, go on the water with the fisher folk, and help Tobagonians to have a greater appreciation for what they have. It is important. We can earn money from it. If nothing else, we can earn from it. We can continue to earn from it. Congratulations again. You have the support, IMA, Dr. Ganis, from all the way up in Charlottesville, to Lambeau, to Crown Point, to those over on the north side. I see Castara just walked in the room. All over on the north side, you have our support for this kind of work, because this kind of work protects our livelihood, protects our lives. And at the end of the day, sustainable development is about future generations being able to enjoy what we enjoy today. So with that, I thank you, and it's with great humility that the Tobago House of Assembly, and by extension, the ministry and the minister, we extend commendations for your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please give it up to the Honorable Chief Secretary. Thank you for your kind words. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a few presentations to give to the Honorable Polly Trinidad Augustine and to other special guests who were instrumental in assisting me with the publication. So I will start with Dr. Maxim. We're going to do the presentations, and you can continue your chat with the Honorable Chief Sec. If you want to come up, we will present you with the book. Up next, we will have. Yes, I'm working on that. Up next, we'll have Dr. Juman present to the Shell representative, Mr. Sloan-Seal.
Right, and as we continue,
And
we will,
Dr.
Dr.
Juman,
Schumann, don't leave us yet. We will have you. We ask that you present to Mr. Dr. Floyd Homer. He has actually reviewing the book. So thanks a lot, Dr. Homer. And now I will call Dr. Angelique Gillis herself, if she can assist in doing the presentation, to the Ledu family, Mr. Richard Ledu's wife, and his daughters as well today, very wants her husband, Mr. Richard Ledu, lay the foundation for the first edition of the book. So please join us. Can I have a round of applause, please? Thank you.
and in the words of Oprah Winfrey, you get a book. You get a book. So we do have gifts for the rest of the audience as well. Okay, so now we will have our Deputy Director, Dr. Rahana Juman, propose the vote of thanks. Dr. Juman is the Deputy Director of Research at the Institute of Marine Affairs. She holds a PhD in zoology from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, and a Bachelor of Law from the University of London, and has been conducting applied research on coastal ecosystems in Trinidad and Tobago for the past 22 years. Rahana has published widely in international journals, and she's also an author of the book, The Wetlands of Trinidad and Tobago. Please welcome Dr. Juman.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I know some folks have to get back to the airport to catch their flight, so I will try to be as quick as possible. So I just want to, give a vote of thanks. So first of all, to the Chief Secretary, the Honorable Polly Augustine, thank you for coming and for your inspiring message. You spoke from your heart. This is important to you, and I just want you to know that the Institute of Marine Affairs, we're committed to work with you and everybody here in Tobago to protect the natural resources, your marine resources in Tobago. We have been doing it for the past 45, almost 50 years, and we're committed to continue because Tobago is very, very important to us. So just know that. Also too, we are very much committed to working with you in trying to arrest the spread of stony coral tissue loss disease. This is critical. Everybody needs to get on board. We need to protect our reefs. right? So thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Maxam, for your welcome remarks. Thank you to Dr. Ganes for this wonderful book that I'm sure everybody is going to enjoy. I want to also thank our representative here from Shell. We signed this sponsorship agreement with Shell back in 2022. And Shell has been very patient with us, and that's because of Dr. Garnett. She's a perfectionist. She wanted to make sure she got all the right pictures, she got all the right interviews, she had all the information processed so that she could bring a book that is not only scientifically grounded, but could really reach people. And that's what's important here today. Dr. Gaines led the development of the book, but there were a number of contributing authors, and I just want to recognize the other folks who have contributed to the book. Dr. Farina Solomon, who's here with us, Ms. Hannah Lochan, one of our young, bright researchers, Mr. Farley, another young lady, want to do a lot of research, Ms. Nikia Gooding, Dr. Michelle Casabon-Manette, and Mr. Edward Albeda. They all contributed to the book. I also want to thank the reviewers, Dr. Floyd Homer, Dr. Beverly Foster Hines, well, myself, I reviewed it a few times, so Ms. Lori Lelam, and Ms. Ramona O'Brien, who is our main kind of editor. Thank you very, very much. Mr. Jonathan Gomez, who's not here with us, he took a lot of these beautiful photography along with Mr. Titus and our graphic artists who made it come together really beautifully. So thank you all for your contribution to the making of this book. Before, I just wanted to say that I was one of the few people here that was fortunate at the IMA, besides Addison, who's been there forever, to actually work with Mr. Richard Ledoux. Actually, Richard, when I joined the IMA back in 1996, Richard had just left the IMA, and I met him shortly thereafter right here in Tobago doing fieldwork. And he was an inspiration. He was an inspiration to me back then, and he's an inspiration to all these young researchers that I have at the IME. So thank you. His work has been tremendous. He gave us the baseline from which we can build. And what Richard did is he taught us what was under, what we did not see, but was under the water. And he set the baseline and what it was, and now we know what it is, and we know where we need to get back. You know, even better than, because I know back then, his colleagues here at Crusoe Reef Society folks would have done Buku's crying. I think Buku's still crying. Hopefully we could, hopefully we could turn that around. So, more like moaning, like, bowling now, right? But we could, like Anjani said, it's not just, just a lot of bad. We can turn it around. We could turn the tide if we work together. Government, scientists, politicians, people, the private-public partnership is critical. Having companies like Shell support us, support the research, and knowing that we are doing it for those young people that stood up here singing for us. They deserve what we are seeing here today, and I mean what was and what could be, right? So I just wanted to say that thank you to Mr. Ledoux for his inspiration, and for today's function, I just wanted to say thank you to the folks that made it possible in terms of all the preparation. Ms. Lorraine Barrow, our officer in charge, Chief Information Officer, Ms. Hannah Lochan, Ms. Christine Thomas Dookie, Ms. Patrice Latrin, Mr. Titus, who's been at IME since 1985, Glendon Gasco, and Crystal Ganislav. Thank you so much. Thank you for the artists that performed today. It's really inspirational, and to see how, aware you are of your environment. And you have to keep on urging the politicians to do the right thing so that you and your children and your grandchildren can see the same thing that Honorable Farley saw when he was growing up, right? So that's your role, that's your job. So in closing, I just want to say something that the Honorable Chief Secretary said. This book reminds us of our natural treasures, beautiful things that God has blessed us with, right? But it's also a call for action, right? For all of us, every one of us, from the Dougies to the Mr. Johnson, to the folks at the THA, Kerwin Sampson, everybody here, to work together to protect the reefs and to protect our marine environment and to turn the tide. So maybe next 10 years when we get the new book, or 20 years, we'll have good news, better news. So thank you very much, and I wish everybody a safe journey back home. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schumann, for those insightful comments and that call to action as well too. So, as we nearing the end here, we're wrapping up soon, I want to ask Angie, listen, at the end of it was so many valuable things were said here today. I want to ask you, what would you like, or what would you hope readers take away when it is they hold this book in their hands?
So yes, home stretch, guys. As we wrap up, my hope for Reefs of Trinidad and Tobago is that it serves more than just a book. It's an invitation to dive deeper into the wonder of our marine world, to understand the intricate web of life that thrives in these underwater cities. As World Oceans Day reminds us to sustain what sustains us, let this book be your catalyst for your own journey of discovery and stewardship. Let the wonder within these pages inspire a lifelong commitment to protecting the fragile beauty that sustains us all for generations to come. I also urge you to consider the wonder we wish to leave for those who come after us. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that the marvels depicted in these pages are not just memories, but thriving realities for our children and grandchildren. Let the wonder we feel today fuel our dedication to safeguarding these vital ecosystems. Thank you very much.
Round of applause. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end, well, at least the formal end of this part of today's presentation. Can we show some love to Dr. Guinness again, the entire IMA team, Shell Trinidad and Tobago, all of you, our stakeholders, Dougie. I will be remiss if I don't mention Dr. Dave Elliott, after calling a doctor as well, the former board member of the IMA. Thank you so much. We have some light refreshments, so don't run off as yet. And we also have a photo opportunity. So stay, connect, mix, mingle, and even get some photos with Anjali. It's a great way for us to continue the celebration. Thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of the evening. Take care, bye-bye.